Okay. Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Excellent. All right, let me just make sure. I just want to make sure captions are on for accessibility's sake. So I'll just do that really quick. Can't quite remember how to do that, actually. Ah, there they are. Okay. So, welcome everyone. This is the first live philosophy of the paranormal lecture. And today, I've got some materials that I meant to cover last time, which I couldn't really because of time constraints, and which would be probably better to cover in a live lecture like this one, rather than in a pre-recorded one. And then we'll move on to talk about the uncanny, which is a fun topic. So I'm looking forward to that. This way we can also talk a little bit about the paranormal, what it is, where the term sort of originated. Sorry, that's my dog. I guess there's a package outside for us. I'll go get that later. Anyway, excuse me. Where was I? Yes, the uncanny. The reason why we're going to talk about the uncanny, as we'll see, is because I think that this word captures a sensation that's very closely related to the sort of sensation or feeling that people have when they encounter the paranormal, or something similarly anomalous. And you'll see as we proceed throughout the course that I sort of prefer the term anomalous to paranormal, because as I said in the pre-recorded lecture, I don't actually think there are paranormal things, right? But I do think that people have these anomalous experiences that need explaining, right? And I think the uncanny sensation that people like Ernst Jentsch and Sigmund Freud discuss captures that sort of feeling when you're faced with something anomalous. It doesn't have to be uncanny, but it just anything anomalous could potentially cause you to feel a similar way. And of course, when it comes to the history of the word and the concept of the paranormal, it'll be a chance for all of us to sort of chat and get to know one another. So with that said, what I'm going to do is share my screen, and we can take a look at the PowerPoint slides that I've prepared. Now, sometimes my laptop is very, 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 very slow, so hopefully that doesn't become an issue today. Okay, let's get rid of these boxes. Got to move this somehow. How could, there we go. All right, so the first bit of stuff that we're going to cover. Oh, yes. Yes, good morning / afternoon to everyone else as well. Oh, there we go. See, yep, slow computer. It's going to be time for a faster machine soon. Okay, so let's see. I'll put myself up in the corner here. So this first part is drawn from the little paper by Penman, and a little bit from Hyman's paper, which are posted in last week's module. And they're kind of like extra. They're a little extra, those readings. There's nothing in there except really for the history of the word paranormal that we won't cover in one of our other readings or classes. Whoops. So let's just minimize myself here so that we can all see the slides. So what we're doing here, as I mentioned before, is using the paranormal. That is paranormal claims, paranormal concepts, even some purportedly scientific theories about the paranormal as a vehicle for learning about science and pseudoscience. Let's see, chat. Yeah. Okay, so what are paranormal phenomena? Well, paranormal phenomena, as they are understood by folks like Penman or Hyman, are just phenomena that lie outside of the realm of either everyday experience or scientific explanation, or both. So as we'll see, that's sort of come to encompass a lot more than it originally meant. Back in the 19th century, for example, during the age of spiritualism and psychical research, the word paranormal didn't exist, but equivalent terms that did exist referred almost exclusively to so-called psychical phenomena, those that some believed had something to do with extrasensory perception or psychokinesis. But remember, this is also a philosophy class, so just what is philosophy? And what is science for that matter? Let's have a quick little chat before we proceed. And by the way, you can answer questions in the chat, or you can, of course, raise your hand, your little virtual hand that you have there on Zoom, and then I'll call upon you and yeah, questions. Now, this is a philosophy class. For some reason, in my philosophy classes, I tend not to get a great many philosophy majors. It tends to be folks from outside of the discipline. I don't know what the case is. Oh, excuse me. I don't know if that's the case here in this cohort. But yeah, what is philosophy? How would you define philosophy? How would you define science? Ready, go. Alicia.
I guess philosophy for me is just like the study of like thinking and like different types of thinking and knowledge in that way.
Certainly,
And
yeah, certainly knowledge for sure.
and science is more like more methods of like hypothesis, like following that format to scientific methods and stuff.
Okay, yeah. So if I understand what you're saying, I think philosophy is much more about thinking through problems using your reason, for example. Kind of like the ancient Greeks were all about that, using reason. They thought we didn't have to do science. Some of them, especially the philosophers of the classical age, like Plato and Aristotle. And science, yeah, is much more like a practical methodology, I suppose. What are people saying here in the chat? Yeah, the scientific method, yeah, totally important. We're definitely going to discuss this. Taylor, I like this, asking questions, finding answers. It reminds me of a quote from Daniel Dennett, a philosopher of mind. And he wrote, philosophy is what you do when you don't know what questions to ask yet. Once you know the questions you want to ask, then you can use science, of course, to answer them. Or philosophy, really depends on the kind of question you're asking. Yeah. All of these are pretty good. Yeah, methods, study of nature. That's science for sure, is the study of nature. And that'll become important when we talk about what the paranormal is. Objective truth. Well, yeah, but there are some philosophical assumptions there for sure. So science is facts. Yeah, Carol, that's a good one. Science, a way to test nature. That's true. And as Andrew says, science is facts and evidence that proves how the natural world operates, and philosophy is our way of trying to understand concepts that might defy science, not necessarily defy science. Here's how I see it, and this is how I think most people in my line of work look at this sort of question. Philosophy is all about asking and answering fundamental questions, right? Philosophy just means love of wisdom, from philia and sophia. So love of wisdom. And wisdom, well, what does that mean? Well, what we mean by that now is that we ask and answer fundamental questions about, well, really anything and everything. Could be the natural world, could be the maybe the non-natural world, if there is such a thing. The human mind, right and wrong, whether there is some god or gods that exist, or spirits and ghosts and stuff like we'll be discussing in this class. Fundamental questions about everything. Science, like many of you were saying, is a way of testing hypotheses about how the natural world works. So, and of course you have the natural sciences like physics, chemistry, biology, but we're part of the natural world too. So there are also social sciences, of course, sociology, psychology, things like that. So that's what I think of philosophy and science. And that leads us to pseudoscience, which is kind of like also known as junk science or fake science. It's not really science, but it fools people into thinking that it is. How does it do so? Anybody want to take a stab at answering that question? Go ahead, Alicia.
There's actually a really fascinating Netflix series about ancient apocalypse, and the main person is a pseudoscientist, or like others classify him as that, but he sees himself as an investigative reporter.
Yes, I heard of this documentary. I haven't seen it yet because I currently do not have Netflix. I'll probably reconnect over the summer at some point. But yeah, I've heard that it presents a sort of pseudo archaeological account of some kind of disaster.
It's all about like archaeological sites and stuff, and trying to figure out if archaeologists have like the proper knowledge, or if they're just like reluctant to search further.
Okay, so we're going to come back to this idea. But yeah, you're right. So that's a good idea. That's a good point. In the chat, Johnny, pseudoscience might work to people's own biases. Absolutely. We all have biases, and that's why science uses a very rigid methodology, right? Because humans are fallible, we make mistakes, we have cognitive biases, we can easily be wrong. The methods of science are there to try and reduce that, right? So those methods are also not there in pseudoscience, as we'll see. Logical fallacies, absolutely. And I think that's related also to cognitive biases. Logical fallacies are errors or mistakes in reasoning, and cognitive biases are sort of bad or incorrect or, you know, or just straight up biased ways of thinking, right? Isaac, go ahead.
I think I would define pseudoscience as people attempting to use the scientific method on things that might not have actually been proven using the scientific method, where they kind of rely on people's support or just sort of making people believe in it.
Yeah, like I think that science, pseudoscience, I mean, we have to be able to apply the scientific method to things that we haven't applied it to before so that we can learn. But I think that the way pseudoscience is it applies it, the way it does so is it applies a sort of pseudo scientific method, if you will. And we'll see the ways in which it is pseudoscientific, the method, I mean, not pseudoscience itself. We will see as we proceed. So let us proceed and talk a little bit more about the paranormal now that we have that out of the way. But that's good. I'm glad that people are already thinking, what is science? What is philosophy? What is pseudoscience? That's good. So what we're doing again is critically examining claims, concepts, and theories related to the paranormal. And these are phenomena that lie outside of the realm of everyday experience or scientific explanation, or both. We're going to be getting pretty interdisciplinary here, which means that we're not just going to be taking our cue from philosophers, but also a lot of different scientists, and perhaps even investigative journalists. If everything goes well and we're able to have that guest lecture, we'll have somebody from the School of Business speaking to us about dark tourism. So it's quite interdisciplinary here, and we're going to encounter a lot of interesting questions, like questions related to human nature, to thought, reality, perception, lots of cool stuff. Sorry, I don't mean to yawn. Makes it sound like it's not going to be exciting, but it is. I just need more coffee. There we go. And now critically examining these claims means that we're going to be taking a skeptical approach. And I'm sure you've heard this term thrown around: skepticism, skeptical. But if you don't have a background in philosophy or science, you might be uncertain about what skepticism is really all about. So let's pause and talk about that for a little bit. So who wants to give me a definition of skepticism? Isaac.
I have never actually formally looked into it, but my understanding of it is always wanting to initially doubt things that you learn about, and sort of critically thinking about them.
Yeah, exactly. The skepticism, the word comes from skepsis, which is ancient Greek, and it simply means doubt. Yeah, so yeah, Conrad. Yeah, I would say, yeah, doubt in the sense of challenge, like to say, whoa, wait a second. Are we sure about that claim? Right? We have to subject it to doubt, perhaps. Let's see, bias against the credibility of a given statement. I wouldn't quite put it like that, but I see what you're saying. Yeah, like if someone makes a claim, you need to subject that claim to doubt. And that doesn't mean you just disbelieve it for the sake of disbelieving it, right? questioning assumptions, questioning or having doubts. Yeah, it's all about doubts. Yeah. Skepticism is about doubt. And it comes from ultimately from the ancient Greek world, a movement called Pyrrhonism. Because one of our first skeptics that we know of was called Pyrrho. And he was all about doubting things. So yeah, questioning reality, questioning. We could probably use doubt or questioning interchangeably here. Well, now we're getting okay. That's more of a thought experiment, the brain in the vat. But we'll come back to this sort of thing in a moment. A skeptical approach does not mean we're just dismissing for the sake of dismissing. For example, if somebody has an anomalous experience, perhaps maybe they think they've seen a UFO, okay, an unidentified flying object. So they claim, I saw an alien spacecraft. Wow, that's a pretty big claim. I'm going to subject it to doubt. What does that mean? That does not mean I go, hey, you're insane, I don't believe you, or something like that. That's not what we do. Rather, I need to apply doubt and see if that claim can survive that process. Right? So, oh, you saw a UFO. Okay, so you saw a thing in the sky, you don't know what it is. All right. Perhaps it was the planet Venus. It's the most commonly confused planet for UFO in the night sky because it's the brightest planet that we can see from Earth. It could be, what was I going to say? It could be the planet Sirius, or the star Sirius. Sirius is the brightest star that we can see with the naked eye from Earth, and it twinkles. It twinkles different colors if you look at it in the night sky. It could be an artificial satellite. Many people mistake artificial satellites, such as the International Space Station is probably the biggest one, for a UFO. Could be a hoax. There are UFO hoaxers out there that have created convincing hoaxes. I'll show you one video from Vice News later in the class of a pair of hoaxers that created a UFO hoax using flares and helium balloons, and the video footage of their hoax made it onto UFO Hunters on the History Channel. So does that mean you didn't see an alien spacecraft? No. But what are the more likely explanations? Literally any one of those other things I just said, right? So that's skepticism, applying doubt. It doesn't mean we just dismiss. Yes, of course, the classic weather balloon, right? Classic. Roswell, New Mexico, right? So very good, very good. That's what doubting means. And science is really like a systematized method for doubting, or for treating claims skeptically. You see, what you do when you do science is you don't try and verify anything. That's not what we do. We do not make a hypothesis and then try and do a test to see if the hypothesis is true. What we do actually is we try to falsify it, right? We try and disprove our hypothesis. Yes, like Taylor says, we're always trying to disprove it. Andrew, that's a really good question, and that's one that I have for various paranormal researchers myself. It depends on the phenomenon that you're talking about, right? I mean, aliens and UFOs are often lumped in with the paranormal, but I assume that if aliens are flying their spacecraft and visiting Earth, their spacecraft must conform to the laws of nature. They must be made out of natural physical stuff. So that's measurable. But when it comes to something like a ghost, where we're talking about the spirit of a dead person, and you know, a ghost is a spirit or a soul of a dead person. So the soul is supposed to be an immaterial, non-physical thing. Then why are these ghost hunters going in with infrared cameras and microphones and EMF meters. Wrong tool for the job, isn't it? Yeah. So, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that when we talk about mediumship and ghost hunting. So, but I'm glad you're thinking ahead. All right. So what's on the next slide? Right. Everyday experience. Okay. So I think we already have a sense in which the paranormal is supposed to lie outside of scientific explanation. I mean, something could be paranormal because we don't currently explain it, or because it is just beyond explanation. There's two ways that could go, right? But whatever, it also has to be unusual, something that few people have encountered, but which we might have heard stories about, urban legends or tales passed down from the old country, or something like that, right? Something from the distant past. Think of folklore. A lot of paranormal stuff overlaps with folklore for this reason, right? Could be the folklore of you know, pick any group of people and look at their folklore, and there's certainly always some kind of supernatural or paranormal element to it. And these unusual or anomalous occurrences must be really weird as well, I think, to count as paranormal. If something, you know, there are plenty of things which are outside of the realm of everyday experience, which are not paranormal. So for example, what if I won a trip to the North Pole, right? Josh, you won the raffle. You get to go on the boat to the North Pole, sail around, look at all the ice, see the northern lights. It's going to be really cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Great. That's definitely beyond the realm of everyday experience, but it's not weird or spooky or paranormal, right? So there's got to be some kind of strangeness, some kind of mysteriousness, as well as you know, it's also got to be a bit rare and perhaps beyond scientific explanation. Come back to scientific explanation here. Yeah, the Wendigo is a good example. Well, the Wendigo is definitely a folkloric creature from the indigenous people of North America. And yeah, the caption says Wendigo. I wonder if I say Wendigo, it'll. Okay, no. I'm sorry if there's anyone relying on the closed captions. It may not translate. It may not render some of these terms accurately, but Taylor's got it here. Wendigo. The Wendigo is yeah, the Wendigo is based in folklore. It's a spirit. It's not a physical creature. Beyond that, I do not know a lot about the Wendigo. But I know that it's sort of been used in various works of fiction. I think Stephen King's used it in some of his books. I think there was an episode of that TV show Supernatural which featured a Wendigo, but I'm not sure because I haven't really seen that much of the show. Possessed drive a person insane to the point of cannibalism. Okay, interesting. Nasty stuff. Oh, really? A skinwalker. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't know a lot about this folklore. Okay, Taylor says it's the same thing. So, okay. Yeah. And the other tricky thing here is, like, I mean, some of this stuff is also appropriative, right? There's a similar case. Actually, it's a Canadian cryptid A cryptid is an animal that supposedly exists, is possibly drawn from folklore, but really exists, like Bigfoot or the Yeti or the Loch Ness Monster. These are cryptids. In Canada, there is this cryptid which apparently exists somewhere out in British Columbia called the Ogopogo. Kind of a sea monster sort of thing that people have turned into a tourist attraction. But of course, it's appropriated from the local First Nations folklore, and they don't believe that it's a physical creature, that you wouldn't see one swimming out in the lake, right? Rather, it's a spirit. It's a non-physical spirit, right? So that's something we have to keep in mind. Okay, scientific explanation. This is the really cool part that I was hoping to get to. So I think you guys have a good grasp of what science is all about. And as I said, science is really a way of subjecting claims to doubt. We do not verify in science. We try to falsify. All scientific claims need to be formulated in a way that they are at least potentially falsifiable. Because if you do a bunch of experiments over and over and you fail to falsify your hypothesis, those are the grounds upon which we conclude that we've learned something new. Because we can't falsify our hypothesis. Our hypothesis stands as an explanation and becomes part of scientific theory until it eventually gets falsified. So that's how that works. And there's an idea here. It's been around since the 19th century. Let's minimize myself here. And that is that science just can't explain paranormal phenomena yet. After all, in the 19th and 20th centuries, the 19th century was the era of spiritualism and psychical research. In the 20th century, it was parapsychology. And the latter very much emerged out of the former as an attempt to try and rein in some of the less scientific parts of psychical research and spiritualism. They all wanted to understand something related to psi, 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 extrasensory perception and psychokinesis. Is it true that science cannot yet explain these phenomena? Well, a lot of people back in the day, a lot of people thought, yeah, psi phenomena are real. We just lack the tools to explain them properly yet. But some scientists, depending on their philosophical outlook, would tell you that there is just no room for the paranormal. I'll show you what I mean. Oh, I'll show you what I mean in a moment. I should have put these slides in a different order. But we'll come back to scientists and their philosophical views in a sec. Related to what Alicia said about the documentary Ancient Apocalypse, another idea that you'll hear is that scientists are ignoring or actively suppressing the study of paranormal phenomena. So here, these paranormal researchers will claim that mainstream scientists are suppressing the truth or ignoring the truth. And I think this is a dangerous attitude for people to have, because it's typical of conspiracy theories as well. So I'll circle back to that. But yeah, Andrew has a question. What's your thoughts on Buddhist monks who can apparently levitate? I think, as Carl Sagan said, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. So I would like to see a levitating monk, and then we'll talk. I've not seen any evidence that this is possible, right? So until then, I'm going to say it's probably just hearsay. But if there are any monks or any other meditators or people with psychokinetic powers who would like to demonstrate their abilities, then I would be willing to subject those abilities to scientific scrutiny. So I wish I on an instructor's salary, I wish. That would be pretty cool, though. Okay, so this idea that scientists are ignoring or suppressing things, I suppose, as Alicia said, you see it in that documentary, Ancient Apocalypse. It's something that I encountered a lot on that show, Ancient Aliens. I don't know if anyone's seen that. I watched this. Well, it started out for fun. I was making fun of it, to be honest. But I'd throw a random episode on from time to time and just sort of analyze some of the claims that were being made. And oftentimes things were presented like, mainstream scientists say this, but ancient astronaut theorists say this. Why won't mainstream scientists acknowledge the truth? What are they hiding? Like there's some kind of nefarious conspiracy going on. I think this is dangerous, frankly, because this is also typical of conspiracy theories. And whenever you have some kind of conspiracy theory where there's this secret group that's controlling everything and keeping everything under control, and then keeping certain things secret, it usually doesn't go well for the group that you are saying is the one in charge, right? So this can be dangerous. The reason why scientists don't study paranormal phenomena is because, and I don't want to disappoint anyone who believes in the paranormal here, is because that it probably doesn't exist. Of course, there are things we don't know about, sure. But once we come to understand them, they're no longer paranormal anymore, right? A really interesting example of this is lucid dreaming. That is dreaming, having a dream where you know in the dream that you are dreaming. Some of you may have had these before. In the 20th century, the prevailing wisdom was that this was not possible because when you're asleep, you're unconscious. And the claim is that if you're having a lucid dream, you're conscious during a dream and you dream when you sleep. How can you be conscious when you're unconscious? It's a contradiction. So most people thought it was an impossibility, even though there were reports of lucid dreams going back to antiquity. But they were eventually shown to be real using oneironauts, explorers of the dream world. That is, in a sleep lab, sending signals from the dream with eye movements that were recorded in the sleep lab. Pretty cool. Very, very Inception, right? Yeah, Isaac, yeah, it is like a paradox. So lucid dreams were treated as paranormal until they were shown scientifically to be real. And now they're just part of science, right? So even if we were to discover that aliens exist or that some people have psychic powers, it would stop being paranormal. Do you see what I'm saying? We could call it the paradox of the paranormal, following Isaac's suggestion. Isaac, you don't mind if I borrow that, do you? I think it's a cool term, the paradox of the paranormal. Awesome. You should use, if you write a paper, use it too. It's a good little thing. Okay. What's next? I think it's metaphysics. Metaphysics. Yeah, some scientists' metaphysics may not allow room for the paranormal. In philosophy, we have many, many different areas. We have epistemology, which is the study of knowledge. How do we know when we have knowledge? What is knowledge, and how do we know when we have it? Epistemology. We have ontology, the study of being and beings. We have axiology, the study of value. And under this umbrella, we have ethics and aesthetics, the study of right and wrong, the study of What is beautiful? What is disgusting? You know, why do things appear beautiful or not to us? We have metaphysics, which is the study of reality. Basically, the Wikipedia sort of definition of metaphysics is asking questions about what exists and what it's like. So what kinds of things exist and what are they like? Metaphysics, by the way, I think it's very appropriate to bring this up in a course like this, because metaphysics has been appropriated by the New Age community from philosophy. In philosophy, metaphysics just comes from the title of Aristotle's book, The Metaphysics, and it means literally just the book that comes after the physics. So Aristotle wrote a book called The Physics, where he tried to explain the natural world. And then he wrote a book that came after the physics, where he tried to explain everything else. And that's where our word metaphysics comes from. It just means after the physics. It's sort of been appropriated to mean something spiritual. And if you go into a bookstore and you go to the New Age section or the spirituality section, you'll see what I mean. But we don't mean metaphysics in that sense in this class. We mean metaphysics as in the study of reality. So sometimes scientists have assumptions. All scientists have assumptions because they're human beings. Sometimes they even have philosophical assumptions. And one philosophical assumption is metaphysical naturalism. And that makes claims about what kinds of things exist and what kinds of things do not exist. On metaphysical naturalism, the only things that exist are natural, that is physical. That means matter, energy, and all of the properties associated with these things. There's nothing supernatural on metaphysical naturalism, right? There's no gods, no immortal souls, no supernatural phenomena, no miracles, no paranormal phenomena, so no ghosts. If there were anything paranormal or supernatural, or ostensibly paranormal or supernatural, well, really, it would just be a natural phenomenon that we do not understand yet. So that's metaphysical naturalism. But there's also methodological naturalism. I'll get myself out of the way here. Sometimes this is treated like a sub-branch of metaphysical naturalism. Sometimes it's treated as something different. But this does not make metaphysical claims. It makes methodological claims. So where metaphysical naturalism claims that only the natural exists, methodological naturalism claims that the only things that we can study with science are natural things. Maybe the paranormal exists, maybe the supernatural exists, but science isn't the right tool for that job. Science is only for the natural world. So that's the difference. Now, some scientists will just, as a matter of their metaphysical outlook, say that there is no paranormal stuff at all, or there might be weird, mysterious, anomalous stuff out there that we don't understand. However, it's not paranormal. It simply seems that way because we don't understand it yet. So, what do we think of this so far? I mean, does anyone feel like they are a naturalist in one way or another, either metaphysical or methodological? No pressure. If we have some non-naturalists in the class, it's all good. An example of naturalism, well, an example of metaphysical naturalism might be, something we can't explain yet. Well, perhaps some of the UFOs that people claim to report. After all, in 2022, the U.S. government declassified its report on unidentified aerial phenomena. So we're no longer dealing with shaky camcorder kind of footage of UFOs or UAPs. We're talking radar, lidar, sonar, gun camera footage of stuff that we see and we don't know what it is, right? So it's something we haven't really explained yet. Could be aliens, but it could be something else. It could be a foreign government. It could be a sensor glitch. It could be degree. It could be weather balloons. We don't know, right? So that might be an example of something that we can't explain just yet. So anyway, when it comes to yeah, Hao Chen, I think everybody can hear your microphone. If possible, can you yeah, I might have to. There we go. Might be away from the computer too. Maybe just forgot about it. I mean, people forget, people make mistakes. It's all good. So are we naturalists? Thanks, Carol. He's probably away from the computer. It's all right. Naturalists. Do we have any naturalists? Okay, I'll go first. I'm a naturalist, right? As you may have guessed. I don't think the supernatural or the paranormal exists. Well, if you think ghosts exist but can be explained, you might still be a naturalist. It depends on how you want to explain them, right? If you think there is a mundane explanation for ghosts, mundane as in natural, then you can still be a naturalist. But if you think that ghosts are beyond scientific explanation, then you're not a naturalist. So if you, I would say if you think there's a natural explanation for them, then you'd be a naturalist. Excellent. So, whoa, lots of stuff coming in the chat now. Okay. That can't be explained by natural methods such. Okay, so belief in the soul in a non-naturalistic soul would certainly mean you're not a naturalist, and that's okay. Conrad, overall naturalist, but you want to know why people believe in ghosts and stuff. Yeah, totally. That's me too. Not a naturalist. Ava's not a naturalist. No problem. Christina, you don't know? That's fine too. Maybe by the end of the course, you'll have an idea, right? Lean towards naturalism. Oh. Yeah, I know. I think, okay, I might be, maybe I'm not a naturalist because I do believe in cats. I have a couple of them around here somewhere. But I do believe that cats perhaps are beyond scientific explanation. So maybe we could classify them as paranormal. I don't know. Blood charms. I have not heard of it. Yeah. Okay, so if you don't believe in ghosts, demons, and devils, that still sounds not naturalistic. Yeah, you can be both. Well, you can be both. If you're a methodological naturalist, then you've got the natural stuff, which you can study with science, and then the supernatural or the paranormal, which that's not what science is for, right? Could be. I got my cats a catnip plant, and they're not really that interested in it. It's weird. I think they prefer the dry catnip. So, but that's a good example of skepticism. Cats also have very good night vision. Maybe he can see something that we can't, right? And cats, of course, are corpuscular, which means they're most active at dawn and dusk. So that's when they're running around going crazy. If I put my naturalist hat on, that's what it tells me. By the way, what about the supernatural? I've been talking about supernatural, but I've sort of gestured towards it. But whoa, lots of stuff in the chat. I'm gonna have to make this bigger. Yeah. I mean, I agree. Like, but often, I think it depends on what kind of explanations you gravitate towards. Like, if I saw something I couldn't explain, I would still probably maintain that there is an explanation for it. Some people don't go that way, though. Some people say, I saw this thing, I had this weird anomalous experience, and they go for a non-naturalistic explanation. And sometimes they hang on to it really hard. I had my high school girlfriend told me a story that happened to her mom, where she woke up in bed, could not move, and felt the presence of her father, her dead father, and could even apparently feel like a breath, like here, like a creepy breath, and smell alcohol on his breath. And of course, he was an alcoholic. And yeah, Andrew, you nailed it. That's the first thing I said. I said, oh, that's sleep paralysis. It's a common thing, happens to a lot of people. It could explain visitation by ghosts, the incubus succubus phenomenon that was reported in Middle Age Europe, and of course, alien abductions. Most alien abductions are claimed to be to take place at night when one is sleeping in one's bed. I mean, I don't know. I think life is. I think the natural explanation is the neat one, right, Taylor? I mean, like, I know it's fun to use your imagination. I absolutely I love science fiction and fantasy, right? I like to play video games. I love using my imagination. But when it comes to real life stuff, I think the real explanations are better. They're way cooler. They're much more beautiful. So anyway, and this is an example, right? I said, sorry, everyone. I think I've got a bit of allergies today, which is why I have the sniffles. But yeah, sleep paralysis. I brought this up. Why did I bring this up? Oh, the kinds of explanations you gravitate towards. These two, that is my high school girlfriend and her mom. Oh, that's why. Okay, that's why I'm all sniffly. I can feel it back here too. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Okay, Emma, that's a really good point. The physical natural world is really nuts. Like, I could go on about this forever. But yeah, I'll just say this. Okay. And again, not trying to be facetious, but every single supernatural explanation that's ever been put forward so far, most of them have fallen in place of a naturalistic explanation, right? Just think of lightning. Lightning is so mundane now, but it's very impressive. Like a lightning strike, like who doesn't love a good thunderstorm, right? I love a good thunderstorm. I can't wait until we have a nice thunderstorm. Oh, your dogs are afraid, Conrad, of the thunder? Yeah, that's unfortunate. Mine is not, weirdly enough. It's really weird. Tula, what are you doing over here? You're not afraid of thunder. You're sleepy. I won't bother you. That's okay. Stay there. My dog's just sitting here beside me as I lecture. An EVP when no one is there. Okay, so an EVP is when you hear like a voice, right? Like if you're recording the sounds of a haunted location, and then you play the tape back and you hear like "get out" or something scary, right? So we can explain that with a feature of human psychology called apophenia. And that is a tendency, it's just a result of how our brains work, of finding patterns, right? Our brains are really good at finding patterns. We need to find patterns so that we can understand how the world works. But so our brains are so good at this that sometimes they put patterns there that are not there. And apophenia generally is a case of that. We call it mistaking signal for noise or noise for signal. Yeah, hearing things in the white noise. Yeah, that's apophenia. A more specific example of apophenia would be pareidolia, which is where you see images in things, like seeing faces where there are no faces, seeing shapes in the clouds. A really big one is seeing Jesus or some other religious figure in food. I don't know why it's food. The man on a moon, another good example. You look at the full moon, it looks like there's a face on it. That's pareidolia, which is a type of apophenia. There are potato chips. People do eat a lot of food. So, we're talking not necessarily cereal, but potato chips, grilled cheese sandwiches, things like this, right? Or cars. Yeah, the front of cars looks like a face. Yeah. So we're very good. The chat is going nuts right here. But what do we got here? Yeah. Come up with explanations. Yeah. And it's not because our brains are sort of going wrong. It's because our brains evolved this way because it conferred an advantage upon our ancestors. And other reasons too. When we get into the discussion of the uncanny, we will really do a deep dive into why the human brain is like this. But for now, let me try and answer this question. Experiences with mediums, what do you think about that? If someone knows a lot of things that happen in your life without knowing anything about you with this, well, the question is whether they actually know, or whether they're hot reading or cold reading. These are two techniques for covertly gathering information, and psychics do this. I mean, and that's not me just trying to be dismissive. I mean, psychics have been caught doing this. It's the same way that magicians do mentalism, magic, that where you make it seem like you have psychic powers. Yeah. So maybe somebody has real powers, but perhaps also it's just somebody using using cold reading or hot reading or some similar technique. Michael Jackson and his pizza. Intuition is kind of I think misunderstood by scientists and regular folks. We tend to think of it as some kind of, like you say, a sixth sense, but a cognitive scientist would probably characterize intuition as a rapid, automatic, unconscious judgment. And this sort of thing saves time. Like, humans have two ways of thinking. We can think slow and deliberatively, consciously, the way we might do in a philosophy class, or we can think really fast and unconsciously. Like if you see a bear and you're like, ah, and you have to run away from the bear. Intuition is a lot like the second one. So, okay. I'm not sure what that means if, for example, know the facts. Okay, are we talking cold reading and hot reading, Ava? Yeah. So Luna, yes, intuition does come from a survival instinct sort of thing, which we will talk about when we get to, I think, next week's stuff. As far as hot reading and cold reading go, I don't want to get ahead of myself because we have a whole unit on or a whole class on this. But essentially, cold reading is covertly gathering information while you're talking with somebody and then representing that information as if you're telling them something new when in fact they told you. Hot reading is gathering information secretly ahead of time. So hot reading would be like if I Googled somebody and then just used all of that information to pretend like I had psychic powers, right? Cold reading would be more like if I'm just chit-chatting with you and I get you to disclose some information, and then later on I represent it to you to make it seem like I divined this information from another source. That would be cold reading. Okay, let's get back to this. So supernatural is a word that I've thrown around a little bit here. It means something similar to paranormal, but just be aware that these two words don't always refer to the same kinds of things. So yeah, there you go. So the supernatural is just what lies beyond the presently understood laws of nature. It's also certainly out of everyday experience, but again, the paranormal, I think, tends to have a sort of air of mystery about it, whereas the supernatural does not. So paranormal might be like, you know, ghosts, hauntings, UFOs, psychic powers, strange creatures. The supernatural is going to be stuff like miracles, or visions, perhaps divinely inspired visions, right? Things like this. Well, Ava, I mean, I technically I do have experience with a medium. I mean, again, I'm not being I'm not trying to be facetious. And the picking people out of crowds, I mean, if this is something you're seeing on television, it is almost certainly produced. And in fact, yeah, I mean, like, look, I'm just gonna say I've had people try and do this sort of thing. It's not like I've never tried, right? let's see. Okay. Whoa, chat's going too fast here. Yes. Okay. So Tabitha, yeah, that's a good. I'm glad you pointed that out. If you go back and watch, just you can find any examples. Watch somebody giving a reading. And yeah, you will actually see them sneaking questions in, and then the person will disclose information, and then they'll give that information back as if it is something they've learned from a supernatural source. Yeah, random guy told me he was a clairvoyant. Something is very good. Well, I mean, I hope he's right, Luna. It would be nice to have an exciting summer. People generally aren't all unique. Yeah. How about healers? Well, I mean, have they successfully healed people? I mean, what do we mean here? Are we talking psychic surgery? Like, are we talking like Reiki? Like, what are we talking about here? I would need to know. So let's circle back to that. Okay, back to Ava. Experience at Heart and Crown. Oh, Heart and Crown, like the pub? Okay, so like a performance, yeah. Oh, okay, whoa, chat's going crazy here. They knew my mom lost a child when she was young, could see its spirit, gave me shivers. It was not on TV. Yeah, no, that's fair. I'm not going to deny that experience occurred. I just think that there's probably a naturalistic explanation for it. I do not think right here, I'm just going to say it is certainly not impossible, because I've seen magicians do the exact same thing, and they do not claim to have supernatural powers. So I'm not going to say that this medium was a fraud. But what I will say that if he's doing this sort of thing with paranormal abilities, he's actually doing it the hard way, because it's much easier to do this sort of thing with trickery. Now here's the thing, Taylor. I'm glad you bring this up. We're really not trying to assume that anybody is dumb or an idiot or something here, right? That is absolutely not what we want to assume. They're just folks who want answers, right? You would think, like you say here, wouldn't somebody notice if the same information was being returned to them? You would think so. You really would. But because of the way that human psychology works, we miss it. We miss the fact. We misremember things very easily. And again, we'll look at concrete examples why all this happens. Yes. Okay, so the last message, yeah, Tabitha, I that's a good point. I'm glad you said that. Yeah, like this is where I stand. You know, if the paranormal is real, great. I want to see that proof. I'm a scientist, right? Yeah, I'm a scientist. I want to know the truth. I want to know what exists and what it's like. So if you've got a paranormal claim, great. I want to see the evidence. I don't want to just dismiss your claim. Okay. Okay. Stage 3 cancer, faith healer. Whoa. Okay. Whoa. Could severe arthritis after meeting with this person have well, again, like I'm not that kind of doctor, but people do go into remission sometimes spontaneously. And as for the arthritis, I mean, excuse me. I mean, I've had my father, for example, also has severe arthritis, and he's tried various non-traditional approaches, shall we say, things that would fall quite close to the paranormal, like alternative medicine. We're talking like a Q-ray bracelet. It's just a metal bracelet. Doesn't do anything. It's just a bracelet made of copper. Doesn't do anything. But it's sold in pharmacies as a panacea for pain. He goes to a chiropractor. Not a lot of people know this. Chiropractors are not back doctors. Chiropractic is not medicine. It's chiropractic. It's alternative medicine. It's not grounded in medical science. And he still is sore all the freaking time. So I don't know if, if I don't know where the causal link is or isn't in all of these cases, right? But anyway, let's get back here. Yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad you're all aware of this. Yeah, like Taylor, I know that you don't think these people are idiots. But I'm just saying I don't think that we should say, oh, if somebody's been fooled by a con artist, perhaps, that they're not. It's not because they're an idiot, right? Yeah. RA, is that rheumatoid arthritis? Yeah, okay. So again, not that kind of doctor. But I mean, the way we take care of ourselves has an impact on our physical condition. I mean, that's the most naturalistic assumption in the world. Like, the body is a machine. You need to take care of it. You need to put the right fuel in. You need to maintain it well. So if you're eating healthy, regular exercise, I mean, of course you're going to feel better. As far as crystals go, Tabitha, I think okay, yeah, I agree. I think you've put it very well there. Maybe the paranormal is real, maybe the supernatural is real. I don't know. I don't think it is. I could be wrong. But if somebody is offering you these kinds of services for money, they are almost certainly taking advantage of you. So do not. Do a Ouija board thing with your friends. Do tarot cards with your friends. Play psychic guessing games with your friends. Do not pay people money to do this, right? That is when it becomes exploitative. Crystals. I got to get back on track because we're running out of time. But I got to get back on track. Crystals are pretty neat. Crystals are misunderstood outside of the scientific community, though. I do not think crystals have healing powers, but I think crystals are pretty cool. People understand the way that, crystals and crystalline structure and energy works. People have misunderstandings. It's true that crystals have really interesting properties. It's true that crystals can transmit energy in a sense, but it's not the kind of energy you think, right? Crystals, you can make a speaker or a microphone out of a crystal, because when you hit a crystal by tapping the crystal, because of the structure of certain crystals, you can actually cause an electric current to flow through the crystal. It's called piezoelectricity. So so yeah, crystals, energy, that's a thing. That's the reason why you can make microphones using crystals. In fact, like I play the guitar, there are pickups called piezo pickups, which use this technology. They're used in electric guitars to make them sound like acoustic guitars, just by virtue of the way it all sounds. But that doesn't mean that crystals have the power or the energy to heal, right? Crystals are just minerals. I mean, you need certain minerals to live, right? Like salt. Salt comes in crystals, right? But that's not magical or paranormal. Yeah, I'm not familiar with this. But yeah, people misunderstand crystals, and also I think people misunderstand the very idea of energy. Yeah, it's piezoelectricity. Oh, what kind of guitar do you have, Isaac? Is it one of those John Petrucci? Oh, it's a Les Paul. Oh, I didn't know Les Pauls did that with the piezo pickups. That's pretty cool. My guitar has a. I'm sorry, this is nerdy guitar talk. Oh, it's okay, cool. Yeah, my guitar, it's modified, so that's why. My current electric is an Ibanez Gem Junior with the floating trem, so I can't really modify it in that way. But I've got an electric acoustic as well, so it really, I mean, I just use that right when I want to. But it's cool, the piezoelectricity pickup thing. They do really sound neat. And I always wondered how they did it. And then it was like, oh, it's crystals. Like, oh, cool, crystals, neat. My guitar has crystals in it. Like, okay, so supernatural, definitely beyond the laws of nature. Let's move on. Okay, so a metaphysical naturalist would say that there is no supernatural, no paranormal. A methodological naturalist, they could go either way. They would just say that science isn't for studying the supernatural or the paranormal. It's also true, or potentially true, that maybe there are some paranormal phenomena that are real and we just have not explained them yet, right? Rock and roll. I see what you did there. That was a good one. Do you know where the term rock and roll comes from? Anyone? It's a weird story. I don't know if it's true. This is a little bit of American folklore. I'm not an American. It's just that rock and roll originated out of America, and this is a little bit of folklore about where the name came from. People would drive their cars up to, places where they could listen to rock and roll and do other stuff, right? You know what I'm saying? So while the car's rocking up there at Makeout Point, sometimes what would happen is if the car wasn't in park, something in the transmission could break and the car would roll down the hill because it was rocking too much. Because these kids were listening to this music, Chuck Berry and Elvis Presley and the Big Bopper and all those guys, right? So rock and roll music. Yeah. Is this true? Is this true? I don't know. It's folklore. It's a bit of American folklore, right? I don't know if this is actually true, but it's a story that is told. In a similar way, a lot of stories about supernatural or paranormal things persist, just like this story does. So, think about it. And yeah, Ben, I mean, I hope that these kids were okay. Like, yeah, they rolled down. I hope they didn't roll down the hill to their death. That would be bad. Or I don't know, maybe that's the way some people want to go. I don't know. But the point I'm trying to make is that folklore is a way for these things to persist. And you can be, folklore can be about the mundane, like the origin of the term rock and roll. Or it can be supernatural or paranormal too. And maybe some of those things do exist and we just haven't explained them yet. Okay, so this class goes until 2:30. Does anyone want like a 5-minute break before we try and finish off everything else? No one wants a break. Everyone wants to keep going, or one person does. Well, we can keep going. That's fine with me. Okay, good. All right, we'll keep going then. So one thing real quick before I talk about paranormal, the word paranormal, is this idea of energy. Now, I noticed that in the chat earlier, we were talking about energy a little bit. This word energy is being thrown around. And I want to go back here. Actually, no, I'll just leave the slides where they are. So this idea of energy, if the paranormal is not natural, that means it's not physical. And when people, when everyday folks think of physical, they mean stuff that's hard, tangible, that they can pick up, stuff that's made of matter, right? Like this book is physical. Yep, physical, all right. This coffee cup with my coffee in it is physical. Now, energy is also physical. But a lot of people throw around energy like, oh, energy, it's non-material, it's supernatural. No, energy is physical. Energy is natural. Sometimes terms get thrown around like psychic energy or bad vibrations. These words describe physical processes. They don't describe non-physical stuff. That's another red flag. When someone says vibrations or energy or something to mean something non-physical, like something supernatural, that's a red flag because those things are physical. Energy is a property of matter. Energy is a property of the universe. Energy is a property that allows us to do work. That's what energy is. Energy is not like Dragon Ball Z laser beams shooting out of your hands type of thing. Like energy is a physical thing. Vibrations are a physical thing, right? Talk about music. Music, vibrations in the air, very important for creating sounds. And we couldn't have music without sounds. And the way those vibrations work is actually very cool, what with the harmonic series and how Western music is built over the harmonic series. These are all physical processes or physical properties or physical things, right? Frequencies. Yeah, frequencies like how fast is something vibrating? Laser beams out of hands would be great. Although I don't know. Yeah, they're definitely, yeah. People have a sort of folk notion of what energy is, and it's often wrong. When a scientist uses the term energy, they mean something physical. So if someone's going to say the ghost that inhabits this place, there's an energy here. The ghost is the energy, the psychic energy. Well, to me, that says that's trying to describe something physical. So we can go out and look for it. And if we don't find it, that means there's no ghost, right? And if, of course, they mean something non-physical, like a soul, but they use the term energy, they're using the word wrong. Yeah, that's right. I mean, energy is mass, energy has mass. I mean, E equals mc squared is what it's all about, right? Albert Einstein, right? You know what I mean? Don't Google it, I'll tell you. Energy and mass are interchangeable. E equals mc squared. Energy, E, given in joules, equals the mass of some bit of matter multiplied by the square, the speed of light squared. If you take some mass and multiply it by the speed of light squared, which is 180,000 kilometers per second squared, you will get the answer. You will get E in joules or megajoules. So, okay, I'll come back to auras in a sec. So in the human body, if you were to take somebody about my size, just convert all of that mass to energy, you'd have like more energy than a thermonuclear bomb or something crazy like that. It's insane, right? So even if there was a ghost and it was somehow part of the energy of a human being, it should be a tremendous amount of energy, right? It should be like something that could not go unnoticed, right? Yeah. Well, yeah, okay. All right. Let's talk about auras. So what about people who see auras? Well, I think there are people who claim to be able to see auras, but I don't think people are actually seeing auras. What does it mean to see it, for it to exist? Well, seeing in a scientific case, in a scientific context, seeing means observing, and we don't just have to observe with our eyes. Yes, we can't see atoms with our eyes, but we infer their existence because of other things that we can observe, and we can also indirectly observe them, say with like an electron microscope. Isaac, I've often wondered if synesthesia is an explanation for why some people claim to see auras, but I don't know. That's what people claim. I've never seen one. I don't know what they're supposed to be, really. They change color, like, I don't know, like some kind of supernatural mood ring, where your aura changes depending on your mood or your state of mind or your physical condition or something, right? Yeah, I've often wondered whether people who claim to see auras might just have some kind of synesthesia, which is a sort of cross-modal sensory experience. You know, it often happens that some people find that when they read words or numbers that look black, you know, the ink is black to everyone else, these will be colored to people with synesthesia. Maybe something as similar is going on here. Yeah, so I don't know about auras, but let's come back to that because we need to get through the rest of the slides and we're not even close. So when did the word paranormal enter English? This is the cool part, okay? Penman, his paper is very interesting, and it details how we've understood this word over the years. Well, synesthetes, here's a question I can't answer. Synesthetes disagree. It's different for everyone, right? I'll tell you that there's no word of a lie. This recently happened where I was teaching a miniaturized version of this class for high school students. And sorry, the chat keeps going off. Yeah, I'm sorry, everyone, but when there's a tangent, I have to. So, okay. So in this miniature course, I had somebody, they raised their hand and they said, okay, but when I look at numbers, they're always colored. What's that? And I said, oh, that sounds like synesthesia. And that's where we have this cross-modal sensory experience where, sounds could have tastes, numbers and letters or words could have colors. There's many different types and subtypes of synesthesia. But anyway, so I drew the number 5 on the board and I said, tell me what color is number 5. And she said, oh, it's number 5 is red. And then, no word of a lie, this guy in the back of the class is like, no, 5 is orange. I thought 5 was orange. So synesthetes do not all experience the same thing monolithically. And I would be willing to bet that neither do aura readers. You could take the same person, have him get like 3 or 4 different readings, and they would all say it's a different color, whether they're synesthetes or not. Yeah. Okay, where are we? Relate numbers with colors and colors with personalities. I mean, it sounds pretty synesthetic on that description. Anyway, so how did this word come into use? It's really weird. This guy Penman noticed that the Oxford English Dictionary listed the first occurrence of this word in another dictionary, but that cannot be the first mention of this word in the English language, because dictionaries are lists of how words are being used at a particular time. So, I'm not familiar with this. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. I'll have to come back to that. But this entry in Webster's New International Dictionary could not have been the first occurrence of the word paranormal, because dictionaries list how words are currently being used. So if it was already in a dictionary, it was already in use before 1920. The dictionary, by the way, defined it as phenomena analogous to physical phenomena, but with no known physical cause, such as mediumistic raps, telekinesis, etc. So it must have been in use already. And the use of the word has changed since the 1920s and before. Yeah. I mean, if you're making a trained synesthetic association between all this stuff, it's not magic. I'll just say that it's not magic. The paranormal used to refer to all that stuff: psychokinesis, telekinesis, ESP, mediumistic raps, but it's much more broad now in terms of what it refers to. Penman says this in his paper: post X-Files, the term paranormal is ubiquitous. In popular culture and some reference works, it is often used to designate all manner of supernatural phenomena, from psychic activity to spirit contact, sometimes branching out into incorporate subjects as diverse as extraterrestrial life, ghosts, cryptozoology, and the Bermuda Triangle. This was, however, not always the case. As I mentioned before, prior to 1920, the word paranormal just meant the kinds of things that parapsychologists or earlier psychical researchers would study: psi phenomena, telepathy, clairvoyance, psychokinesis, things like this. And this because if we go back far enough into the 19th century, this is what the spiritualists were all about in the 19th century. It's what the psychical researchers were interested in studying. Speaking of the psychical researchers, first of all, in the 19th century, the term psychical did not necessarily have the same connotation it does today. Psychical simply meant mental. It's from the word psyche, which means mind or soul in ancient Greek. It's the root of our word for psychology. So it's funny how words change, isn't it? Nowadays, if I say the word psychic, you probably think of somebody who gives you a reading or something, right? But back in the day, it was just anything to do with the mind. It's only come to have this weird supernatural paranormal connotation as a result of what we're about to talk about here. In 1882, there was founded in London the Society for Psychical Research. We had philosophers like Henry Sidgwick. We had classicists like Frederick William Henry Myers. Edmund Gurney was a psychologist. William Crookes was a chemist who made important discoveries on spectroscopy. So we had a very diverse international membership, and they were devoted to understanding the mesmeric, psychical, and spiritualistic. Mesmeric in this case means something like hypnosis. You know, the word mesmerism. Say we're mesmerized by something means we're hypnotized. That's because one of the people who developed early techniques for hypnotizing people was named Mesmer. So that's where that comes from. They coined the term supernormal to refer to all of this stuff. Not paranormal, supernormal. What was the supernormal? I'll read it to you. This is Myers. I have ventured to coin the word supernormal to be applied to phenomena which are beyond what usually happens. Beyond, that is, in the sense of suggesting unknown psychical laws. It is thus formed on the analogy of abnormal. When we speak of an abnormal phenomenon, we do not mean one which contravenes natural laws. Similarly, by a supernormal phenomenon, I mean not one which overrides natural laws, for I believe no such phenomenon to exist, but one which exhibits the action of laws higher in a psychical aspect than are discerned in action in everyday life. By higher, either in a psychical or a physiological sense, I mean apparently belonging to a more advanced stage of evolution. Okay. Does this remind anyone of anything? Yeah. Super. Yeah. Super as in above normal. So it's not quite normal. It's out of the ordinary. So the original psychical researchers didn't think that there was anything supernatural to any of this. They thought that we were dealing with perhaps new laws of nature that we didn't know about, that were being exhibited or manifested in certain special individuals. What does that sound like? Anybody? Anyone into comic books, comic book movies? Let's see if you can guess. Yeah, mutants, exactly. We are talking about the X-Men of the 19th century. We've got people who seemed to have these special abilities, and the researchers at the time thought, well, that they're not using magic powers and they're not tricking us. It's a possible future step in human evolution. And all of it is explainable via natural laws. Yeah. Yeah. And evolution was a hot topic back then. I mean, this is the late 19th century. So this is right after Darwin publishes The Origin of Species. which was all the rage. It was insane. Scientists were all about it. It was being read by scientists and by laypersons. People were excited about it. People were upset about it, but everybody knew about evolution thanks to Darwin's book. It was like how all of us today know of the formula E equals mc squared, even if we don't know what it means. It's one of those scientific concepts that just became that popular that everybody knew the word and everybody was sort of aware of what it was about. So this word supernormal served until 1905. That's when the word paranormal actually entered the English language, and it came from French. Pi. What? I'm not sure I'm following what's happening in the chat right now. No, 3.14159, not 3.77. Yeah. Yeah, like pi. Yeah. Oh, because everybody knows pi. Well, a lot of people know pi. I mean, but pi is a very, very long number. It goes on forever. Oh, I see the mitochondria. Oh, I see. Like this is one of those facts that everyone knows. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah, I think E equals mc squared is more. Yeah, popularly known but not fully understood. That's true. Well, that's what evolution was. It was popularly known, not fully understood. So it was all the rage. Anyway, so paranormal enters the English language, and it's popularized by Joseph Maxwell's book Metaphysical Phenomena. And look here, he's using metaphysical not in the philosophical sense, but in the paranormal or supernatural sense. So it was Maxwell who appropriated this word from philosophy and decided to use it in a spiritualist context. Yeah, that's true, Isaac. I know pi. I like pi, but not everyone knows why pi is what it is. Pi is the ratio of the radius. No, this. Yeah. Oh, see, I forget. The radius of a circle, the ratio of the radius to the diameter. Oh, the circumference, not the diameter. Oh, diameter. Oh, it is diameter. You know what? You know what, everyone? I don't know what pi is, but I know that it's 3.14159, yada, 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 yada. It's an irrational number, which means it can't be expressed as a ratio. It's a transcendental number. It's an imaginary number. It's all kinds of special things. Pi really is a cool number. But you're right. Okay. Math can be beautiful. The problem is that I just don't think elementary school teachers really know how to teach it. I think if we taught math the way the ancient Greeks taught math, everybody would be really into math. But alas, that is not the way of things. I mean, math can be awesome. I wish people knew how to teach math. Instead, it's just like learning by rote, and it was the most boring thing. But I like geometry, but and statistics. I like statistics because I can actually do something with those. But the way that math was taught, at least to me, it was like, are you trying to make us not interested in math? So Maxwell borrows paranormal and popularizes it. And his usage of paranormal aligns with supernormal. So psychical phenomena, right? Let's see what he wrote. This is the important bit, this second bit after the semicolon. Paranormal phenomena, that is to say, phenomena which imply the existence of modes of perception to which the normal personality is foreign. Clairvoyance, clairaudience, telesthesia, telepathy, and exteriorization of motor power. So seeing things in the mind, hearing things in the mind, I suppose feeling things from other people. receiving or sending thoughts from other people, and psychokinesis or telekinesis, extrasensory motor movement of things in the environment. And again, these folks that all these psychical researchers are talking about are not supposed to be people with magic powers or anything like that. They're people with abilities that it was thought could be explained by science. J. Lewis McIntyre, who reviews Maxwell's book, said, "The sensitives, Maxwell's term for those possessing psychical abilities, are persons who are indeed paranormal, but who are not therefore to be described as degenerates, neurotics, or hysterics." Wow. Okay. Rather, they have powers which at present transcend those of other men, but which may at some future phase of evolution become themselves the rule rather than the exception. So yes, very X-Men, right? No. Well, I mean, perhaps the way that these terms, degenerates, neurotics, or hysterics, hysteria is no longer is a thing. It was a thing that was kind of like a catch-all diagnosis for just for women. And sometimes it was used on women that weren't even mentally ill. So nowadays we understand different kinds of mental illness. We know that there's bipolar disorder and different kinds of depression, dysthymia, borderline personality disorder, schizophrenia. We know many different mental illnesses, and we understand them a lot better. But back then, if a woman was mentally ill, oftentimes whatever the illness was, it would just be lumped under this umbrella of hysteria. And sometimes the women weren't even sick. Sometimes it was just like, oh, my wife is too much of an independent thinker. What a hysterical woman. Let's put her in the asylum, you know. So yeah, we do not have hysteria anymore. Oh, trepanning, yeah, drilling the skull to cure mental illness. Well, the cure for hysteria, I mean, no, yeah, no, you're all not wrong. We used to think mental illness was caused by demons, and well, where's your brain? The skull. That's where your mind is, presumably the soul, according to the the soul interface. The rational soul must interface with the body somehow, so perhaps it does so with the brain. So if there's demons in there, we need to let them out. So we need to drill holes to let the demons out. We really did this. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, the drugs you used to be able to get. Heroin was invented by the same company that aspirin was invented by, Bayer. Heroin was sold in pharmacies. You could just go buy it. Yeah. You could there was a pill called Pervitin, which was sold in pharmacies in America and Britain and in Europe, and which actually during the Second World War, the Nazis, they gave all their soldiers Pervitin when they were fighting on the front. Pervitin is crystal meth. So you used to just be able to go buy crystal meth. So, good thing we can't do that anymore, right? It's not good. Yeah. No, heroin is just a more powerful opioid or opiate technically than morphine. Morphine occurs naturally in the opium poppy, but heroin is synthesized. Yeah, they wanted something less addictive, turned out to be 10 times as powerful as morphine. So not exactly less addictive. And the treatment for hysteria, guys, this is not safe for work, but this is a university classroom. So I'm going to tell you. What or no. No, I'm not gonna tell you. I'm gonna see if somebody knows the answer before I tell you. The cure for hysteria. What device was invented to cure hysteria? Yes. Thank goodness I didn't have to say it. But yeah, I mean, okay, so medical science has come a long way. I'm just saying. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, the opposite of that particular belt. Why? I have no idea. Neuroticism is like a nervous personality. Degenerates is a really bad one. Yeah, see, I don't know. It could be because male doctors are a little sus, you know, back in the day. But yeah, or maybe it's that stress relief. I'm not sure. But degenerates, definitely not the preferred nomenclature. This comes out of the eugenics movement. Eugenics is like, why don't we make people better by artificially selecting ourselves like we do with dogs and animals that we breed. Then why don't we also sterilize the undesirables so they can't reproduce? And then after a while, it was just, you know what? Let's just kill them. Let's kill the degenerates, the people that are not well born. See? D as in bad, generate, gene, birth. I mean, that's how we got the Holocaust. Yeah, maybe Tabitha. I'm not sure. I don't know. All I know is that particular device was invented as some attempted cure. And I don't think it worked as a treatment or cure, but I think it got picked up obviously as a product that had a market base, obviously. So, you know, there you go. But degenerates, this was a bad one. We don't call people degenerates because of eugenics. Okay. I mean, I'm sure that some women experienced that and were lumped under that umbrella. It was really like, oh, is something wrong? Are you a woman? Are you in bad health? You might be hysterical. Like that was literally like, that's how it was. It was terrible. Awful stuff. Yeah, very sad. Very sad. Yeah. It's still like that to this day. I mean, men are still overrepresented in the research on a lot of mental illnesses and developmental disorders. There's a huge wave right now of women who are they're not children, they're adults being diagnosed with ADHD right now. We're in the middle of it. It's a huge wave. It's not because all women are suddenly getting ADHD. It's because we've realized that women were underrepresented in ADHD diagnoses because it manifests differently in girls than it does boys. And we only know to look for the hyperactive subtype, which is what tends to occur in boys. Whereas at the inattentive type, what we used to call just ADD, is more common in girls. So, you know, it's still happening. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like Nicholas says, it manifests quite differently. Yeah. Men tend to have the hyperactive variant, and women tend to have the inattentive type. And that's why so many girls was missed. And now, you know, it's like every woman I know, hey, I just found out I have ADHD. Oh, wow. You know, because we're realizing now that we were getting it wrong before. Yeah, they are merged. They are now different subtypes of the same thing. Yeah, no. What we used to call ADD is now an inattentive subtype of ADHD, is what I was saying. So yeah, exactly. Yeah. Same thing with girls on the autism spectrum. It just manifests differently. So we are not out of the woods yet. Okay. But anyway, we're going way off topic. So one more question from the chat. Yeah. See, yeah. Yeah. I think women are also better at masking. So women might have the sense like, oh, there's something different about me. Maybe I have ADHD, or maybe I'm on the spectrum or something. But they're better at hiding that in their interactions with other people. I think men tend to not be as good at masking. What the reasons are, I don't know, but that is one of the possible explanations. Yeah, so everybody's, yeah, a lot of people. You know what? Good luck to you all. If you have it and you can get that diagnosis, I mean, it's good. It's a good thing to do. So whether we're talking supernormal or supernatural, we are talking people who are supposed to possess abilities that are not unexplainable or supernatural. They are rather just rare, but possibly a future direction for the evolution of the human race to go in. Supernormal and paranormal both also try to capture the sense in which these anomalous phenomena are beyond our typical experience or scientific explanation, or both. So in academic journals at the time, which published studies into psychical phenomena, they used paranormal and supernormal interchangeably, and sometimes paranormal was even used in regular scientific literature, not to describe anything spooky, but just something that was out of the ordinary. But we don't do that anymore, and that's thanks to Joseph Banks Rhine and his publication Extrasensory Perception, because this was a very popular work. Yeah, I feel like we're all going through something like this. Tabitha, that's very nice of you. I'm hopefully going for an assessment. It's not for ADHD, but got to go and get the old brain looked at later this summer, hopefully. I'll let you guys know what's up when I find out. Okay, Joseph Banks Rhine published the extrasensory perception writings, and this helped to popularize the term paranormal because these were very successful publications. Joseph Banks Rhine, by the way, together with his wife Louisa, they were the ones that invented parapsychology. They tried to take research on the paranormal out of the context of psychical research, where we were dealing with special individuals with special powers, and move it over into a proper scientifically controlled setting where we were just looking at regular people. And I think that's really cool. I actually respect the Rhines. I think they really gave it a good old college try, as it were. It turns out that there's still, I don't think, anything to find. Parapsychology has still turned out to be a pseudoscience. However, we wouldn't have known unless we gave it a good, honest try, and the Rhines did that. So, what's happening in the chat? Yeah, drill some holes, doctor. Let the demons out. Yeah. Yes. Yes, yes, exactly. With the mental health movement, also with like gender stuff, rights for like LGBTQ people. Yeah, more acceptance. It's just, yeah, more acceptance all around. Like, it's not like there are more people with autism, more people with ADHD. There's not like all of a sudden more gay people or trans people. It's just people are more accepted. So like left-handed people, when we stopped beating kids for using the wrong hand, more kids said, I'm left-handed, because they weren't afraid of getting beaten with a ruler anymore. So same thing with mental illness, developmental differences like ADHD and autism, gender and sexuality stuff. We're just trying to be more accepting nowadays, and I think that's great. I think that's awesome. Really? Oh, that's terrible. Yeah, that's terrible. Oh, a religious school. What, can I ask what religion, Nicholas? If you don't feel comfortable answering, don't answer. It's fine. I'm just curious who was running the school. Oh, Christianity. Oh, okay. Taylor says that she went to a Catholic school. Jesuit. Okay, yeah. So I was going to say no shade. No shade. But I was going to guess Catholic. But no shade against Catholics, okay, for real. Okay, so nowadays paranormal refers to more than just psychical phenomena. Now it refers to a wide variety of things. Anything really that's beyond the presently understood laws of nature, scientific explanation, or everyday experience. If you've had a ostensibly a psychic experience, that would certainly count as something paranormal, but so would seeing a UFO or Bigfoot or something, right? Go back to the chat real quick. Yeah. The devil holds his staff with his left hand. Oh, interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, handedness, yeah, I didn't know that the devil had a staff either, but okay, so the reason it goes back to basically just what's more common. It's just that right-handedness is just way more common in human beings. So most cultures named it the correct hand. That's why it's the right hand. It's the right hand to use. That's the hand that most people use for everything. So it's the right one. In Latin, this was dextros, which just means hand. This was the hand. And this was sinistros. Sinister. Ooh, evil. If someone's doing something here, they could do something sinister with their left hand. Distraction, stab, or I cross my fingers, I don't mean what I just said, right? This kind of stuff. So that's where that comes from. I'm not sure about that, because the heart is more or less in the center of the body. It's not on the left side. But perhaps you're right. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's really just, you're different than us. Be like us. That's what it is. Okay. So we're going to take a broader approach in this class, broader than the psychical researchers did. Obviously, we're going to be talking about lots of different kinds of paranormal phenomena. Not just psychical stuff, but I plan to look at aliens and UFOs. I plan to look at astrology. I plan to examine dreams and dreaming. That's fun. Lots of different stuff, and more stuff, which hopefully you will all have a say in choosing. So that will be nice. Yeah, slightly left of center. I mean, really pretty much the center. It's just that the heart is kind of tilted and the larger bits are on the left-hand side, like the big chambers are kind of leaning toward that side. Witches class. Oh, okay. Yeah. I've had some people write some pretty good papers in this class on witchcraft and Wicca and that stuff. So, keep in mind, maybe there's some cross pollination of ideas that could happen. Okay. So yeah, we're going to take a pretty broad approach in this class. Okay. I want to talk about parapsychology because psychical research is how this stuff was treated in the 19th century. In the 20th century, that's when parapsychology got going. Yeah, that's a class that fills up quickly, I would imagine. Okay, so the Journal of Parapsychology. They have a journal, everyone. It defines parapsychology as the branch of science that deals with psi communication. That is, behavioral or personal exchanges with the environment which are extrasensory motor, not dependent on the senses and muscles. And I've added this emphasis here. Psi communication, or psi in general, is a general term to identify a person's extrasensory motor communication with the environment. And it includes ESP, or extrasensory perception, which is quote, this is from Hyman's paper, experience of or response to a target object, state, event, or influence without sensory contact. And of course, psi also includes psychokinesis, which is the extramotor aspect of psi, again quoting from Hyman's paper, a direct, that is mental but non-muscular, influence exerted by the subject on an external physical process, condition, or object. So moving things with your mind. Right? Yeah, bring in some witchy stuff if you want. Like maybe that could be one of the topics that we discuss is witchcraft. Because I've actually never done that before. I've never done a lecture on witchcraft. Oh, next to a witch store. Neat. What's that store called? Oh, witch chest. Nice. Costco. Well, Costco has everything. They really do. So yeah, I think what we need to do the problem is, like, I'm not sure. Okay, so here's the thing. I don't think I can do witches justice. I think a class on witchcraft should be, or even just a guest lecture or one lecture should be put together by someone who really knows the topic. And I don't know that I can do it justice in this class, right? So we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, sorry, it's a long class, so you will see me rip a vape every now and then. I apologize if it seems unprofessional, but it is quite a long class. So that's ESP and PK. So Joseph Banks Rhine came up with this term parapsychology, which he borrowed from German in the 1930s. And the term parapsychology would eventually replace psychical research, spiritualism, all of that stuff. Now, Rhine, Joseph Banks and his wife Louisa emphasized precisely controlled laboratory experiments, and they used regular people. So they didn't get people who claimed to have special powers, like some of the famous spirit mediums of the 19th century, which we'll learn about next week. we're talking Daniel Douglas Hume, we're talking Eusapia Palladino, we're talking the Fox sisters, right? These are famous mediums, spirit mediums from the 19th century, and these were the people that were studied. The problem is just about all of them were caught committing fraud or fakery. So the Rhines avoided special people who claim to be special, and instead used normal, regular folks like you or I. They avoided a lot of stuff that psychical researchers were interested in studying. They didn't look at haunted houses. They didn't look at channeling spirits, doing seances. Basically, anything to do with life after death, they said, we're not touching it. So in the 1920s, the Rhines were working on parapsychology, turning it into a proper science, a proper branch of psychology at their lab at Duke University. And they would use Zener cards, typically. Here are some Zener cards right here. They have, let's see, a square, a circle, a cross, star, wavy lines. So there are 5 different pictures, and there are 5 of each of these cards in a deck. So each symbol occurs 5 times in a deck of 25 cards. And we would use these on experiments for ESP, that is clairvoyance, precognition, and telepathy. Yeah, the hot air. Yeah, exactly. The hot air dryer, like the bacon that comes out of the hot air dryer. When the bacon comes out, you have to receive the bacon. So this is like that. This is the bacon. So these are used in like guessing games, basically. Whoops. So you have 25 cards, 5 different symbols, each occur 5 times, which means you have a 1 in 5 chance of making the correct guess. Say if somebody tries to send an image on the card to you telepathically. Say we shuffle the deck and I'm the sender, and I pick a card and I get wavy lines, and I have to send that telepathically to you, and you have to receive it and then guess what the card is going to be. Because we've got 5 symbols occurring 5 times, your chances are what, 1 in 20? Sorry to do math again, guys. I'm sorry. But 1 in 20. So that means your chance of getting a guess is getting it is 5 or 20%. Are you sure that's right? Yeah, nobody likes math. What? No, not 1 in 25. So just if we have, just divide 5 into 25. And no, they wouldn't have to pass any type of test. 5 divided into 25. Yeah, 1 in 5. Yeah, you have a 1 in 5 chance of making the correct guess. So we should expect in a typical run through the entire deck, the chance expectation is that you're going to get 5 right if you're just guessing due to chance. But the Rhines collected data on like over 90,000 guesses, and their average number of hits per deck was 7.1, which is higher than chance, right? The chance expectation is 5. It's because you have a 5% chance of making the right identification, right? So was this due to chance or not? It did not seem like this was due to chance at first. Excuse me. And as a result, the scientific community actually took an interest in claims of ESP for a while. I remember I did my PhD thesis on I did it on a version of the Turing test, which is by Alan Turing. Okay. No, the guesser is not told whether they're getting the guesses right or wrong. They don't get any information. So if you get a circle and you get that right, I don't tell you you got it right. And I don't tell you when you get it wrong. I just go through the deck, and then after we've gone through all the cards, then you find out how you did. Because otherwise we'd have that problem, wouldn't we? It would be like those people that can count cards. They're playing poker. They can see what's face up on the table, and they can guess the probability of what they're going to get out of the deck as they go around each hand. So we'd have that problem here if we didn't do that. Yeah, we don't want people card counting. So Alan Turing, the Turing test, very serious scientist, known for Turing machines, the Turing test. This guy formalized the notion of computation. We would not have computers without Turing or someone like him having done the work that he did. Very smart guy. He was an atheist. He was a skeptic. But in his paper, Computing Machinery and Intelligence, he actually has a little section on how somebody with ESP could beat the Turing test, a test of whether one is interacting with a machine or a human, using ESP. Why did he make this claim? Because of this research. Because it seemed at the time that these results could not have been due to chance. Why? We didn't have the statistics that we have today, and we didn't have the computers to do those statistics that we have today, right? So that's why. He sure did. If you want to know about Alan Turing, I have another course called Minds and Machines. All those lectures are on YouTube. And I have a couple of lectures dedicated specifically to Turing. And if you want to know his story, definitely check it out. But yet, you're absolutely right. Alan Turing, as far as I'm concerned, should have won a Nobel Peace Prize. Instead, well, if you don't know what happened to him, he was outed as being gay at a time when it was illegal to be gay. He was chemically castrated, essentially, with a kind of hormone therapy. And he may have killed himself. We're not sure if his death was accidental or whether he killed himself, but he died young. And because of his work, some historians estimate that he might have shortened World War II. His work on decrypting Enigma messages that the Nazis were sending with their Enigma machines. Because of his work on Project Ultra, which was all about decrypting these messages, he may have shortened the war by 2 years and saved 15 million people's lives. And he gets chemically castrated. Like, what the fuck? Am I right? Yeah. Alan Turing, I don't really have heroes, but I think Alan Turing might be one of my heroes if I have them. And anyway, Turing was a skeptical guy. It's just that nobody really had the research tools to show why this was not due to chance. That's what we do when we do statistics in science. We do an experiment, we get a result, and then we use statistical analysis to see, is the result I got because of my experimental manipulation that I did, between these two conditions, or was it just chance? That's why we do statistics. What are we doing here? Yeah, it is heartbreaking. It really is. Yeah. So it seemed like there was a lot of evidence for psi. But when other researchers began to take an interest in this, they couldn't really replicate his results. And replication is important in science too, because even if you do your statistical analysis and you determine that the result you got was not due to chance, it still might have been due to chance. So someone else has to run the experiment and see what happens. And we need to do that many, 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 many times, right? There were also methodological problems that the Rhines faced. And in some cases, there was outright fraud going on. Not in Rhine's case, but other researchers. But Rhine's established the basic procedures that parapsychologists would continue to use, excuse me, all the way through the 1970s. They would use ESP or Zener cards. The Rhines also studied psychokinesis by trying to have their participants influence the outcome of dice throws. And if you want, you can go into the slides and you can check out this video of people at the parapsychology lab at Duke University, or rather the Rhine Research Center, which is the successor to this and which is no longer affiliated with the university, doing experiments with Zener cards. Spoiler alert, they don't guess the cards correctly. Because, well, probably neither of them have psychic powers, right? So it becomes clear later on, Rhine's early work, it's very hard to replicate his results. Some cases of fraud happen, like in the case of Soul, and Hyman covers this very well, how it was actually another researcher who really who was trying to prove that Soul wasn't making up data, accidentally proved that he had to have been falsifying his data, right? So sometimes a good parapsychologist catches a bad one, right? Now, some thought, okay, there's going to be cases of fraud. There's going to be cases of fraud in science anyway, right? Like the whole reason why people think that vaccines cause autism is due to a case of scientific fraud. Because of that Dr. Andrew Wakefield. Actually, I don't know if I should call him. Yeah, it does. Yeah, happens a lot. Yeah, the only way to stop a bad psychologist is a good psychologist with a study. It's true. Yeah, it's true. You have to replicate. So, yeah, where was I? I forget what I was going to say now. That's fine. Maybe we could improve the research. Maybe we can improve the research tools of psychology. The not doctor. I don't know. One thing that people tried to do was to use less abstract stimuli. You know, Zener cards aren't really meaningful, right? They've got circles and wavy lines and squares and stuff. Big whoop. But what if we used more emotionally charged stimuli, right? A guy at Harvard has done this. Name is BEM, B-E-M. And he claims to find an effect for precognition when the images he uses are, in fact, sexually charged. So, given a sort of A-B task, which is going to come next, people just perform at chance levels when it's like a couple of random objects. But if it's like random object or sexy picture of somebody, he claims people do better than chance at guessing when the sexy picture is going to come up. But his effect size is tiny, so it's probably not actually anything really happening. Oh, right, Wakefield, right. Scientific, the scientific fraud, yeah. He's nuts. He just falsified a bunch of data. Now he's a darling of the anti-vax movement and the harm that this guy has caused. I mean, it was for the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. We've never had, I mean, since we started vaccinating against measles, we almost never had outbreaks. Now there are measles outbreaks because parents don't get their kids vaccinated because they think they're going to give their kids autism. Because of this guy who made up a bunch of nonsense. It's really sad. So yeah, sure. Fraud occurs in all kinds of science, but perhaps we can improve our research methods. try and keep the frauds away. Here's an interesting one. Let's just go back to the chat for a sec. Yeah, that is offensive to me too. Yeah, exactly. Like people are like, oh no, autism. It's like, guys, people on the spectrum can live like normal lives. I don't know if if this is news to, it's probably not news to you guys, but it's probably news to some people. Autistic people are not just, all nonverbal, not able to live independently. Most autistic people do well if they get a diagnosis and the right kinds of intervention. They learn to blend in and get along and be all right. So yeah, like you said, Alicia, no one knows unless you say something. Exactly. So, and even if vaccines did cause autism, there's an argument to be made that, well, given the rates at which they're claimed to cause it versus how many people they save, we should still vaccinate people, even if they did cause autism, which they don't. So just to be absolutely clear on that. Anyway, this guy, Andrew Wakefield, total fraud, total charlatan, total junk scientist. Shame on him. Here's a cool thing. The Ganzfeld psi experiment. So Ganzfeld is German for whole field, the whole field. Back to the chat. Yeah, exactly. Because well, first of all, Taylor, yes, he is one of those. Dr. Wakefield is one of those for sure. And yeah, when it comes to the ASD, like you say, it is a spectrum disorder. And back in my day, I remember when I was a kid, for no one, it was just autism. And people with autism, the stereotype was you're either Rain Man or you're nonverbal, severely disabled, can't live independently, right? It was only in, I think in 94, that Asperger's was put into the DSM, which was the linguistically competent version of autism. But there were questions raised about its diagnostic usefulness and about its namesake, Hans Asperger, because he had some associations with Nazism. And so eventually, since autism is a spectrum disorder, everybody said, like, well, why don't we just like properly make it into a spectrum? So now we've got 1, 2, and 3. And really, whether you're autism 1, 2, or 3 just determines, like we say in the chat, the level of support that you need. So 3 need the most support, 2 some support, 1 minimal to no support. So that's how we do it now. Some legacy autistic peoples, might still refer to themselves as like an Aspie or somebody with classic autism. But now in the new version of the DSM, it's like been fully spectrumized, right? So I know it's a funny sounding name. I don't use that term myself either. I prefer the nomenclature of the new, or not the nomenclature. I prefer the new nomenclature. And I say, I just say autistic person, right? Yeah, that's what I say. Ganzfeld psi experiment. Sorry, everyone. You see what happens. I go down these rabbit holes. You have to stop me. Please stop me. Somebody stop me. Yeah. Well, I mean, I get it. I get that. Yeah. Labels are helpful. Okay, personal anecdote. I was talking to a doctor who was also a therapist, and I was trying to get to the bottom of some, mental health stuff. And then this doctor, she just says to me like, "Oh, I don't believe in labels." And I was taken aback. I was very taken aback. I was like, "Wait a minute, what?" I mean, I get that not everybody wants a label, but like, I want a label. I'm here because I want to know what's happening. Like, I want to know. Tell me what it is. Label it for me, doc. Anyway, then she disappeared and I never saw her again. So yeah, not to get too personal, but yeah, that's a thing that happened. A doctor actually said that. I like labels too. Yeah, she took them all. Yeah. Yeah. I like labels. I'm a label person. Definitely a label person. Yeah. Yeah, she took the labels. Yeah, there are some things. It depends, really. It depends. It depends. But I think that when it comes to that sort of thing, labels can be helpful for sure. For sure. I would love to be able to tell people what's going on with my brain. I would love it. Can I? No. But maybe if I had a label, that would be nice. Okay. Ganzfeld psi experiments. The whole field is this uniform pink field you see here in this picture. See, when someone goes into a Ganzfeld experiment, they wear these sort of half ping pong ball goggles, and a red light is put on, and white noise is played through these earphones to create the whole field. The idea is that this field is that it is psi conducive, okay? Conducive to telepathy, clairvoyance, whatever. And there'll be a sender outside of the room trying to send a target to the person in the whole field. And she talks out loud, describes what she could see, or perhaps after the experiment, she has to pick out what was sent from amongst a group of objects. And that's the Ganzfeld psi experiment. Sometimes we incorporate computers into this to randomize stimuli. Those are called auto Ganzfeld experiments. I think we might just be able to finish these slides. Yeah. Getting back to before. Yeah, some people think if you label me, you're putting me in a box. And I'm not just my label. I'm not just in this box. I can do other things. Yeah, non-restrictive labels are key. Yeah, non-restrictive labels are good. No one is just one thing, right? No one's just one thing. Like, I'm a professor. Okay, sure, but like, there's a lot more to it than that, right? So yeah, nobody's just one thing. Yeah, things can exist in more than one set. You're absolutely right. I can belong to the set of things that are professors and the set of things that are other things, right? No problem. So parapsychologists, when it comes to psychical research and parapsychology, they say that the hit rates are above chance, and that serves as evidence that psi phenomena exist. But skeptics will point out that meta-analyses, studies of studies, essentially, where we take a whole bunch of scientific studies and analyze them all together to see what the results are, they show that hit rates are not very high and that the effect sizes are very small. So effect size is a way of knowing the relationship between two variables, the strength of the relationship between two variables. The lower the effect size, the weaker the relationship between the variables is. So even if you have a significant effect, if you have a really, really small effect size, who cares? Because it still could have been due to chance, because you don't know the strength of the relationship between those variables. Back to the chat. Oh, the Myers-Briggs, yeah. Or wait, is that what you're talking about? I don't like MBTI. What is MBTI? Yeah, I don't know what that is actually. Sorry. Also, the problem with replication is just huge in parapsychology. No one can replicate anything because there's not really anything to replicate. I say. Is it Myers-Briggs? I said Myers-Briggs, but I don't know. Oh, the Myers-Briggs something in Myers-Briggs type inventory. That's what it. Oh, right. I knew it would come back to me. Yes, astrology for personality types. I like that. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Definitely astrology and personality tests both use a lot of Barnum statements, and we'll learn about that as we get into the course. All right, let's try and finish up. There are even parapsychologists like Susan Blackmore, and I use some chapters from her book on consciousness in this class. But folks like Susan Blackmore, who, like the Rhines back in the 20s and 30s, started a career in parapsychology in earnest. But Blackmore had 10 years of null results. And finally, she gave up and said, I'm going to study something else. Just now she's just a psychologist. She writes a lot about consciousness and things like that. And she's a very good writer, which is why I use her consciousness textbook for my consciousness seminar that I teach. And I also use selections from that book for this class, because there isn't really an entire textbook on the paranormal that I can use. The closest I can come to it is selections from various works, including some of Susan Blackmore's works. Yeah. Yeah, personality tests are not, they're a little sus. We'll just say that. Because Barnum statements, right? A Barnum statement is a statement that is so vague that it could apply to anybody, but it's framed in a way that you think it's about you, right? And it's named after P.T. Barnum. Ever see The Greatest Showman? Anyone? I haven't seen it, but you know, Hugh Jackman, he plays P.T. Barnum, and he's got his circus with all his folks there, right? Yeah, I haven't seen it. I probably should. Yeah, same with yeah, exactly. Astrology and horoscope, same thing. So P.T. Barnum, he's famous for saying there's a sucker born every minute. Barnum himself would have all kinds of weird stuff on display at museums and shows, like, you know, skulls of fish and people stitched together, like to be like, oh, it's a mermaid, right? He wasn't trying to convince people that mermaids are real. He was all about having a good time. He wasn't trying to fool anyone. If you asked him, is that fake? He'd probably tell you, yeah, it is. But did you like it? Then you got your money's worth. Yeah, I've got to see it myself. The Greatest Showman, I mean. But anyway, so, you know, yeah, his namesake, he's one half of the namesake of Barnum and Bailey Circus. But, you know, Barnum's statement is like, you over there, you look like a smart young fellow. Come on over and try your luck. You know, who's not going to say, who, me? Why, yes, I am smart. Thank you. Like, I'll win this game, obviously, clearly, because I'm so smart. No, that's a Barnum statement. Or in astrology, like, you will face a challenge today. Yeah, probably. Like, what kind of challenge, right? It's so vague that it can apply to anyone. Those are Barnum statements. If you want to read about how Blackmore abandoned parapsychology, there's a link to the article in which he talks about it in these slides. Yeah, there are some, but there are some personality tests that are a bit better than others. But there are some that are absolutely terrible. Some people know the tricks of the trade. And here I'm not talking about former parapsychologists. I'm talking about magicians. Ray Hyman was a magician. He was a mentalist, actually. He used to read palms when he was in graduate school. And of course, you got Harry Houdini, who was very famous for debunking paranormal claims in early 20th century. James Randi, who did the same in the mid to late 20th century. Chris Angel has even done it, of all people. Chris Angel has even gone after psychics. Penn and Teller do it very well because they do these magic mentalism tricks and then they tell you how they do the tricks. And Darren Brown as well. All of them do mentalism, which is like, giving the impression that you have ESP or PK, but it's accomplished with, just trickery. Let's see. Not all of them's whole. Like, I think it depends. Personality psychology, I think, is kind of sus. But again, I'm not a psychologist, so I'm gonna just leave this one here. Yeah, like this, like Conrad's example. This is yeah. Yeah. If you're ever interviewing for a job and they're like, I'm going to give you a personality test, you need to leave. Because that says that job does not, that employer is not scientifically literate. Kind of like if they give you a polygraph test too, frankly. Wait, Scotiabank gives you personality tests? Yeah. Here's a good point here. FISA says aptitude tests are different from personality tests. You're right. Well, probably because you're trying to get a clearance, right? But the thing about polygraphs is, like, they're not even admissible as evidence in criminal cases, right? They don't work the way people think they do, and you can beat them. It's not hard to beat a polygraph. Yeah. See, I would not do that. That's not for me. Yeah, false negatives. Yeah, it won't work. It's stupid. I'm sorry. I think it's absolutely stupid that government agencies use this. It doesn't work. That's not what it's for, right? It does not detect it doesn't detect lies. Yeah, and they know that. Yeah, you're right. They know that. Yes, Conrad, you're correct. Sphincter control, you're right. Yes, if you can control your sphincters in various ways, you can beat a polygraph, apparently. Anyway, check out this video if you want, about James Randi on Uri Geller, who was very big in the 70s and 80s, claiming to be a psychic who could read minds and bend spoons. Lots of stuff in the chat here. Where are we? I don't remember that, but that definitely seems a little unethical. The RCMP gay test. Yeah, what's that about? Really? They called it fruit machine? Oh my God, that's not okay. That's not the preferred nomenclature. Yeah, like, what the hell? That's oh my God. Also, who cares? Like, I remember just discussing the don't ask, don't tell, which was that was the policy in the American military under Bill Clinton. was just like, because before that, gays weren't allowed in the military. If they found out you were gay, they could kick you out of the military. And then there was don't ask, don't tell. So it was just like, you can't ask if someone's gay, and if you're gay, don't tell anyone. But like, what if you're like, can you ask me if I'm straight? Am I not allowed to tell you I'm straight? Like, what? Like, just the 90s, man. What a time. Oh God, really? Of the fruit machine test at Carleton. Oh, what a shame. In the 50s. Well, the 50s, not a good time. Not a good time for those for our LGBTQ friends. Yeah, boo. No longer, let's say, Frank Robert Wake, you are no meh. Yeah. And the 50s and 60s, I mean, we were still doing some of that eugenics stuff up until that point. We were still sterilizing mentally ill people, gay people, First Nations people. Oh, they had it the worst. It was not good. This is post World War II in Canada. I mean, still got a ways to go, you know, we really do. Yeah. We still got a ways to go. We like to sometimes get on our high horse and be like, oh, well, we never had slavery, and we don't have the police violence, and we're not all militaristic like the Americans or whatever. No. We've got skeletons in our closet, and we need to fix it. We still have work to do to have a lovely society where everybody can participate and be awesome and be themselves. Yes. Yeah, it's true. We've got a long ways to go. So, summary, let's try and wrap it up. If paranormal things were shown to exist, they would have natural explanations. But if paranormal things, say, existed and turned out to be supernatural, well, science wouldn't be the tool for explaining them. We've also seen, like, initially, the paranormal went like this, from ghosts, from ESP and PK to encompass a whole bunch of other stuff. It's kind of got like a weird saddle shape or hourglass shape, where the psychical researchers were interested in anyone who claimed they had any sort of superpowers at all, to the Rhines, who focused only on very particular things, to now, where we're back to like a sort of all-encompassing paranormal umbrella, where we have ESP, PK, Bermuda Triangle, Nazca lines, ancient aliens, UFOs, Bigfoot, crystals, astrology. It's all there, right, under this big giant umbrella of doom. You've got a rough idea of how parapsychology emerged and declined, but we'll look at parapsychology in more detail next week. What I want to do, I'm going to have to skip this slide, but maybe we can start with a little bit of this discussion next time. Discussion about what kinds of things we could learn about. For our next set of slides, it will be the slides dealing with the uncanny. The uncanny is kind of like a species of the frightening, Freud called it. A species of the frightening that, let me stop sharing my screen here. Yeah, I guess maybe those one, if I know the ones you're talking about. Yeah, Alicia, I did know that. It's very rare. I know you have, your interesting examples like Salem, Massachusetts, but yeah, there were actual procedures in place. Yeah. there were actual procedures. It was still really messed up. But yeah, some people were accused of being witches and then were acquitted perhaps before going to trial. Johannes Kepler, the scientist, the German scientist who worked out how planets move around stars way back in the day, his mom was accused of being a witch. And he had to go and like get her out of prison, essentially. And she was accused of being a witch, not because she actually did magic stuff, but because she was quarrelsome and sold drugs. So, you know, that's why she was accused of being a witch. Yeah. Is the assignment due next week? I might bump that back a little bit. So yes, I will have something to say about that. But sit tight for now. So next time we're looking at the uncanny, the species of the frightening. Yeah. Oh, I mean, of course, you know, that's probably something witches knew about, was like which kinds of plants and mushrooms and things you want to eat in order to have a certain effect, right? Absolutely. Absolutely. Whoa. Yes, Sandman next class. Yes, be careful of the meth. There is no rubric for the reading response. I will tell you, I will give you verbal instructions on the reading response. The reading response also may be pushed back a bit because you need to have enough material to choose from to discuss on your reading response. So don't worry about it for now. I will say more about it next time when we will talk about the uncanny. The uncanny and the associated sensations are, I think, quite a lot like the sensations one experiences during an encounter with something that seems paranormal or anomalous. So that's why we're going to look at it. So we're going to read some Jentsch, some Freud. You don't have to read the first chapter of Freud's essay. I would really just read the second and third. Read all of Jentsch's and read Hoffman, because Hoffman's story really is a good one. Talking about the Sandman. They are posted. All of this is posted on Brightspace. So thank you. I try to create a relaxed environment to encourage student participation. So yeah, I try to be chill. I do try to be chill. I try to be the illest and the chillest, as the kids say. So you know, and besides that, you know, I also keep like an open door policy. So if anyone has any questions or concerns at any time, you know, reach out. That's why I've got the Discord server. That's why I've got, you know, you can reach out to me via email. You know, lots of ways to get a hold of me. So so yeah, I hope, I mean, well, great. Thank you guys. I try to be professional. No, Conrad, that's fine. I joke. I make jokes all the time in my lectures too. A little bit of humor can help consolidate those long-term memories, you know, if it's emotionally charged, you know what I mean? So I'm not just goofing around. This is science, okay? So if I'm telling my dad jokes and it helps you remember your material, that's actually science. This is true. It's science. Okay, now what's happening in the chat? Yeah, that's right. We are here for 3 hours. So, I mean, wouldn't you rather have a fun discussion than a boring one? I mean, come on. And this is a fun topic. I get excited about this topic, and that's why I'm so like, you know, that's why that's happening. Okay. I know, right? It's time to stop. We've gone past time. We have to stop. But I could keep going, but I've got to stop. I've got another class to prep for tomorrow. and then I want to prep for our lecture on the uncanny. So next time is the paranormal and the uncanny part 2. So that is all for now. I'll see you all next time, and I will have the recording of this video uploaded shortly. Okay. Thanks everyone, and I will see you all next time. Well, I hope you pass the test. Just know that the test is a little sus. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye. Bye for now.